Please welcome the Rwanda National Ballet, Urucherereza.
Rwanda nziza komeza imihigo bw'Abanyarwanda ntibusagambe ngo byiduhetse horane nsenze turagushyigikiye Rwanda nziza komeza imihigo bw'Abanyarwanda ntibusagambe ngo byiduhetse horane nsenze turagushyigikiye Rwanda nziza turagukunda tuzakwitangira ubutitsa Rwanda we turagushyigikiye iyo ni muntu ugira amararo nanjye ngira amaramuko Shengero huragendwa u Rwanda rw'Abanyarwanda n'ukuri kw'Imana we yewe iyo mwambaye shenge musamaza abahandi u Rwanda rw'Abanyarwanda n'ukuri kw'Imana we
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, would you please welcome to the stage the Chair of the World Travel and Tourism Council, Arnold Don.
It's a good way to wake up in the morning. What do you guys think, right? We can do it, right? We can get it. All right, good. Samara Mutse, Your Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, esteemed guests, in the spirit of travel's transformative power, which helps to foster tolerance, diminishes fear of the unknown, and nurtures not just knowledge, but something much deeper, understanding. I extend my warmest welcome to each of you as we convene for our 23rd Global Summit. It is indeed such an honor and a privilege to stand before you today as chair of WTTC, addressing not just industry leaders, but visionaries and emerging talents from across the globe. This year, our journey brings us to Rwanda, a nation of profound significance. Rwanda is graced with breathtaking natural beauty and precious wildlife. But its true essence lies in its people, dynamic, warm, and united. Now, I want to express gratitude to the talented performers who set the tone for our summit here this morning, sharing the spirit of this extraordinary place. And I want to apologize for my very poor artificial imitation, but it is a good way to wake up in the morning. Now, our presence in Africa for this year's summit is very intentional, and it marks a very historic moment for the travel and tourism sector. WTTC has stood as a beacon for our sector for 33 years, advocating for the positive impact travel and tourism has on our world, from economic growth to transforming lives, and enhancing human health and happiness. Now, by now, you probably heard me say this many, many times, and I hope, like me, you feel it bears repeating. Travel brings us together. Through travel, different peoples and cultures discover what we share in common, inspiring, empowering us to celebrate our differences rather than fearing or resenting them. Now, our Global Summit has been a cornerstone of our efforts to promote inclusive, frictionless travel, addressing critical issues such as security, digitization, seamless travel, and sustainability, even regenerative tourism. All amidst challenges like the crippling global financial crisis and the devastating impact of COVID. Now, this is the first time our Global Summit is being held on the African continent, and it's been long overdue. This continent is home to 54 countries, countless diverse languages, and 1.4 billion people. Africa is home to Victoria Falls, the Kruger National Park, Mount Kilimanjaro, the Sahara, the Pyramid of Giza, pristine beaches, and vibrant cities, including Johannesburg, Cairo, Lagos, Nairobi, and of course, right here in Kigali. Investment in travel and tourism in Africa has risen at much stronger rate than the global average since 2000. Now, between 2000 and 2019, investment increased by nearly 350%. That's about 3.5 times, and at a broadly consistent rate across the continent. Today, here in Rwanda, we send a resounding message to the world. The heart of travel and tourism beats strongly here in Africa. So I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to our sponsors. Without them, we couldn't be here. To our CEO, Julia Simpson, who you'll hear from shortly, and the entire WTTC staff for shaping what promises to be a very exciting summit program. And I want to express a very special thank you to our beloved member and our vice chair and regional chair for Africa, Manfredi Lefebvre. Manfredi. So Manfredi, as you know, while I subsequently advocated for Rwanda, it was your initial advocacy for holding the first WTTC summit ever in Africa that has brought us here today, and I can't thank you enough for it, so thank you. And of course, our deepest gratitude goes to our hosts, the Republic of Rwanda. Especially His Excellency President Paul Kagame and the Rwanda Development Board, led by our friend CEO Francis Guattari. Rwanda's travel and tourism sector attracted $173 million in 2022. It's just the beginning. And better still, Rwanda's travel and tourism sector is forecast to rise to $194 million, just the beginning. And in the next decade, it is expected to grow substantially even more. It's going to create hundreds of thousands of jobs. And importantly, the country's commitment to carbon neutrality and conservation is an example to the rest of the world, and it aligns perfectly with this year's summit theme. So again, welcome everybody. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all for supporting the ongoing efforts of the World Travel and Tourism Council. And now it's my privilege to introduce Francis Guattari, CEO of the Rwanda Development Board, whose work resonates deeply with our mission to build bridges toward a sustainable future. Thank you. Thank you. Murukoze Shane. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Arnold. Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, Your Excellency Samia Suluhu, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Your Excellency Prosper Bazombaza, Vice President of the Republic of Burundi, Julia Simpson, President and CEO, WTTC, Honorable Ministers here present, leaders in the WTTC travel tourism industry, distinguished delegates following us online and here in the room, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome everyone to Rwanda. We are thrilled to have you join us here today for the WTTC 2023 Global Summit in Kigali, Rwanda. I would like first to begin by expressing our gratitude to Their Excellencies, President of the Republic of Rwanda, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Vice President of the Republic of Burundi, for the work that you continue to do in promoting travel and tourism around the world. Thank you for the steadfast work that you continue to do. My thanks also goes to the WTTC community, who made a decision last year that Rwanda may host the 2023 Global Summit. Thank you for choosing Rwanda, and by extension, for the first time to host this summit in Africa. Hosting the WTTC Global Summit in Rwanda, and therefore in Africa, marks an incredible milestone for our continent. It's also an opportunity for the world to see Rwanda, to experience the tremendous transformation that our country has gone through and Africa's dedication to sustainable tourism. In Rwanda, we understand deeply, firsthand, the role of travel and tourism that it plays in shaping our economy, but also in fostering global unity. Next year, in September, here in Rwanda, we will celebrate 20 years of the gorilla naming ceremony that we started as a remarkable ceremony to experience and celebrate the turnaround of the mountain gorilla population. We want to welcome you all to what we think will be a remarkable land-breaking ceremony. I think what Rwanda has achieved in the mountain gorilla population is a remarkable turnaround story in conservation. I want to take this moment to once again welcome all of you and invite you to stay longer here in Rwanda and to experience the beautiful travel and tourism experiences of our country and the hospitality of the Rwandan people. I thank you once again for your kind attention.
Travel is a series of Travel is a series of encounters.
From a chance meeting to a bucket list adventure.
Or an exchange of ideas.
It's nice to meet you, to how are you?
Every encounter is a passport into each other's worlds.
And every single moment can help our understanding.
Challenge our perceptions.
And create memories that can shape a lifetime.
Travel gives us the opportunity to know others while we strive to know ourselves.
Because it is only when we join together that we can connect together.
Learn together.
Work together.
Grow together.
Change the world together.
As we build bridges to a more sustainable future.
Your Excellencies, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, His Excellency Prosper Bazombanza, Vice President of the Republic of Burundi, our gracious host, His Excellency President Paul Kagame, President of this wonderful country, Rwanda, ministers, esteemed delegates, and dear friends. Murakaza neza. Welcome to WTTC's 2023 Global Summit. As Arnold said, our first ever Global Summit in Africa, and I have to say, it's about time. Being here in Rwanda, for me personally, is truly special. The first time I came to Kigali, I had my suitcase fully packed with preconceptions. A young man collected me from the airport. It was early morning, the air was sweet, the roads were lined with lush borders, and an army of really smart people were on their way to work. So I thought, I asked him, where do most people work? I asked. Well, a few years ago, lots of people worked for the government here in Rwanda, but now we have been encouraged and supported to set up our own businesses. Actually, he said, I have a tech startup in travel and tourism. Wow. I'd only been in Rwanda for 5 minutes and I meet a young man with a tech startup in travel and tourism. Well, 10 years ago, Rwanda didn't even rank in the top 150 countries for ease of doing business. Today, it's in the top 20. You can register a new company, how many hours? 6 hours. So this guy was amazing. So I said to him, listen, I'm a business person. I often don't get to see as much of a country as I'd like to. If there's one thing I simply must do while I'm here, what would you recommend? I have to be honest, I was expecting him to say, please go and see the mountain gorillas. And he paused and he thought. And he said, whatever you do, make sure you get to the Kigali Genocide Memorial. He said, it's not an easy place to visit. But if you understand our history, you will understand Rwanda. This ambitious young man was wise beyond his years. To have a future, he, like Rwanda, has embraced his past. Because this country, almost 30 years ago, was torn apart. 3 decades, almost 3 decades on, it's a nation transformed, strong, united, successful. Today, travel and tourism is the single largest source of foreign earnings. By the end of 2023, the end of this year, it's forecast to be 8.2% of this country's GDP and employing, as Arnold said, over 350,000 people. That's what we mean when we talk about the economic opportunity of travel. And it's not just Rwanda. I had the great privilege of meeting the president, and he said to me about this summit, this summit is not just about Rwanda, it is about Africa. Africa, this remarkable continent, has transformed too. Our vice chair, Manfredi Lefebvre, is a long-standing investor and traveller here and has been the inspiration behind coming here today. In just 2 decades, tourism on the continent of Africa has more than doubled. 84 million international visitors added $186 billion to Africa's bottom line. That's 7% of the whole continent's economy. And the forecast over the next 10 years is even brighter. Africa's tourism sector is set to grow by 5.1% every year, annualized, almost twice as fast as the general economy. Now, my second visit to Rwanda was earlier this year. I had the great privilege and honor to be invited to attend the Women Deliver Summit here in Kigali. It is the biggest conference on gender equality globally. 6,000 people packed an arena listening to Malala. And 250,000 people joined online. This is another example, another first for Rwanda. And it was a great honor to hear President Kagame speak of the economic and social value that gender equality brings to this country. And you know, I'm a woman and I'm not that young. I've heard this often, but here it is not just talk. The Rwandan parliament has the largest percentage of women in the world, of any parliament in the world. 61%. And close to my heart, look at Yvonne Makolo, CEO of Rwandair, the first female chair of IATA and the first African chair of IATA. I congratulate her. Tomorrow, WTTC with AIG and Hospitable Me adds its voice to the diversity and equity discussion. And what it looks at is real progress is not just about the makeup of our sector, but it's how we welcome difference, how we take care of people, our own people and our customers, how we create a sense of belonging, a sense of home. This report gives life to the Latin term hospice, a word that in one word embraces both the guest and the host, whatever their background, whatever their beliefs, whatever their sexuality. It made me think of that line by Mark Twain: travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. I really can't leave without mentioning my other big encounter here, which of course was with the famous Rwandan gorillas. In the 1980s, there were under 200 mountain gorillas left on this planet. They were on the brink of extinction from poaching and from deforestation. Today, there are over 1,600. They know that because they do a census every year. And the reason the gorillas were saved is actually really simple. Travel and tourism. But not any old tourism, but a business model that puts a financial premium on a once-in-a-lifetime experience, puts a premium on the gorillas' right to coexist with us, and puts a premium on local people. Farmers who once earned a living turning forests into fields now make more by replanting those forests. And more remarkable still is when the gorillas wander over the border, Rwanda splits the revenue with its neighbouring countries. I actually can't think of a more perfect metaphor for the kind of cross-border collaboration we need in the fight against climate change and nature loss. I am truly proud that the WTTC, supported by Saudi Arabia, can now actually monitor our whole sector's global environmental and social footprint. We can do it by 185 countries, we can do it year by year, and we can do it by individual industry. That allows us to lead the debate with governments, and more importantly, pinpoints exactly where we need changes and shifts of policy. So what has all this data shown us? The headline is that travel and tourism's footprint is being decoupled from its growth. So while travel and tourism GDP grew by 4.3%, annually emissions grew at 2.5%. Already 135 countries saw declining emissions intensity, and 15 have seen their absolute greenhouse gas emissions decrease despite growing their tourism sector. Our sector globally is still less emissions intensive than the wider economy. In 2019, at its peak, travel and tourism represented 8.1% of the total greenhouse gas emissions in the world, 10.6% of total energy use, and 0.9% of global water use. Now, 0.9% of global water use might not seem a lot, but it's not evenly spread. And in countries like Rwanda and parts of Africa, that water is precious. And I'm proud to say the hotel I'm staying in recycles water. It's an incredible example of what can be done. Now, these are all numbers. What you would really expect from a business that's in travel and tourism is that transport makes up the most of our sector's greenhouse gas emissions at about 40%. And energy use, the electricity we use to turn the lights on, is about 20%. Now, out of the transport, 40%, about 36% of that comes from international aviation. This means the single biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions is not the plane that I've flown here to visit Rwanda, but it is actually our ground transport. That's why one of our top priorities should be to move to electric vehicles in our businesses and in our supply chains. And in the hard-to-abate area of jet fuel for aviation, we need to support the urgent production of sustainable aviation fuels. Hats off to the US and to the EU that have launched legislation to support and incentivize more SAF production. But the truth is, right now, we're simply not making enough. So I urge every minister in this room, take a look at sustainable aviation fuel production in your country. It's actually quite a good investment opportunity as well. And take a look at the electrification of your ground vehicles and see how much energy you can produce as renewable energy. Because if we can crack those three, we will massively reduce the impact on the environment from our family, the travel and tourism sector. Now, Please let me end and also start this journey on Africa. Today, with VFS, we are publishing a report on the potential size of travel and tourism across this continent. We know there are challenges: air connectivity within the region, infrastructure, and visas, or should I say sometimes the lack of visas. Visa regimes are a major challenge to this sector globally, and in Africa, it is an own goal. Rwanda sets a wonderful example with visas on arrival. But, you know, I remember talking to the South African minister, and she was saying to me, how can it make sense, Julia, for a Ghanaian businesswoman to wait several months to get a visa to visit my country in South Africa? And I know she's doing something about it. Our report shows that with the right vision, travel and tourism could increase Africa's gross domestic product by $50 billion by 2033 and create 6 million more jobs. Truly, truly a continent of promise. Despite everything we have been through, the financial crisis, the pandemic, the struggle to reopen, our sector is incredibly resilient. But now we are seeing heart-wrenching scenes of war. Our sector, at its core, is about peace. Travel and tourism is the very, very essence of soft power, building bridges, building understanding, building compassion. Rwanda is a living example of hope and strength and success after adversity. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful summit.
Please welcome to the stage the summit anchor, Tami Nkadimeng.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, friends and family from the travel and tourism industry. My name is indeed Tami Nkadimeng, and it gives me great honor and privilege to be your MC here in Kigali for the next 2 days. Now, yes, I am named Tami Nkadimeng in my identity document, but I'm globally known as the Message Architect, which I thought was quite appropriate if you look at the theme for this year: building bridges to a sustainable future. Why am I known as that? Because I love to play with words. I break them, I build them, and I create messages with meaning. So yes, while I know that WTTC stands for World Travel and Tourism Council, I thought maybe for the next 2 days, I'll let WTTC stands for We Take Travel and Tourism Critically. We take it critically because we understand how it builds the economies, how it is the very bridge that can be built for a sustainable future. Throughout the next 2 days, we will break the program into 5 sessions. Of course, there are Connect, Invest, Collaborate, Promote, and Protect. And yes, I'll tell you a little bit about those later. But for now, I just want to give you a taste of what Rwanda has to offer. So with that, Muraka Zaneza.
We are now in Akagera National Park. It's a home of the Big Five. It's very important to conserve and protect the park and keep the nature as it is.
Its conservation story is so inspiring. The biodiversity and habitats change throughout the park.
Wow, see this elephant. It's a little bit of a surprise.
I fell in love in Kigali. It's a very clean city. I think that inspired me to open the business here. Kigali's international events bring a lot of diversity. Everywhere you go, you are welcome. The food scene in Rwanda is amazing. From farm to table in Kigali, people like to enjoy life.
This was my dream since I was a kid, working with the gorillas every day. You hear? These are the gorillas breaking the trees. Come. That's the silverback. The people, they are very happy to see the tourists coming. It's a big support to the conservation of these gorillas for the future generation.
Nyungwe is one of 4 national parks here in Rwanda. For tourists to come here, they participate also in the conservation, which also helps us to protect the forest.
There is something really magical about Nyungwe National Forest, and it's unspoilt. It's natural, rare beauty. What makes it extra special establishing a resort here is that we work very closely with the community. And it's a really authentic experience for the guests. We are very lucky. This is our little piece of heaven.
Rwanda is called the land of 1,000 hills. From the east to the west, we are at Lake Kivu. It's one of the largest lakes in Africa. The sky meets the lake. It's a place that everybody should really visit.
Welcome to Rwanda.
Just a quick housekeeping rule. If you do not understand French, our next guest will be speaking in French. So this is the time to please get yourself settled in with your translation set so we do not disrupt him as he comes up on stage. It's always incredible to have leadership in the room, and we're really fortunate to have 3 such leaders here with us today. We will hear from 3 esteemed guests. And to start us off with this 3 is the first speaker coming on stage, none other than the Vice President of the Republic of Burundi. Please help me warmly welcome to stage His Excellency Prosper Bazombanza. Thank you so much.
His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Tanzania, Mrs. Samia, Honorable, I would like to speak in French because of it is the French which is spoken Burundi. Thank you very much. Son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République du Rwanda, Son Excellence, Madame la Présidente de la République unie de Tanzanie, honorables invités, honorables députés et sénateurs, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, Messieurs les directeurs généraux, Messieurs les directeurs, Messieurs les représentants des entreprises hôteliers et touristiques, Mesdames et Messieurs, tout protocole observé, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais tout d'abord remercier le Dieu Tout-Puissant pour les bienfaits dont il ne cesse de combler nos États. C'est pour moi un réel plaisir d'être avec vous dans ce rendez-vous mondial. Au nom de Son Excellence, le Président de la République du Burundi, Son Excellence, le général-major Évariste Ndayishimiye, et en mon nom propre, c'est un grand honneur d'être parmi vous à l'occasion du 23e sommet mondial du voyage et du tourisme. Je tiens à féliciter très chaleureusement la République du Rwanda, pays frère, premier pays africain qui aujourd'hui abrite cet événement annuel le plus influent du calendrier des voyages et du tourisme et qui rassemble des milliers d'experts du secteur touristique ainsi que des représentants des gouvernements afin que nous continuions à aligner nos efforts pour soutenir la croissance du secteur du tourisme vers un avenir plus sûr, plus résilient, plus inclusif et plus durable. Et c'est un grand honneur pour toute l'Afrique, bien entendu. Excellences, Monsieur le Président de la République, Excellences, Madame la Présidente de la République, Mesdames et Messieurs, comme le thème de ce sommet l'indique, construire des ponts vers un avenir durable, ce rendez-vous mondial qui nous a rassemblés ici à Kigali nous permettra de définir et d'affiner des initiatives stratégiques clés pour relever les défis sociaux, continentaux, environnementaux et économiques auxquels le secteur du tourisme est confronté vers une prospérité partagée pour la communauté mondiale. C'est un excellent cadre approprié à nous les dirigeants et responsables du monde entier impliqués dans le secteur du tourisme d'échanger sur les priorités et préoccupations afin d'identifier les opportunités de soutien mutuel et d'opposer les bases d'un partenariat public-privé plus approfondi en matière de développement durable. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, ce sommet du voyage et du tourisme vient au moment où le Burundi s'est absolument engagé à soutenir toutes les initiatives qui visent à accroître l'industrie du tourisme dans les lignes tracées par la vision du Burundi, qui est la suivante: 2040 pays émergents et 2060 pays développés. Nous avons une forte conviction que ce rendez-vous mondial contribuera énormément à promouvoir nos nombreuses attractions touristiques sur les marchés régionaux et internationaux. Ayant conscience de l'importance du secteur du tourisme pour les économies nationales des États, il est impérieux d'établir la coopération dans le secteur du tourisme. Cependant, force est de constater que le potentiel touristique de quelques États reste largement inexploité. En outre, de synergies fondées sur de diverses initiatives telles que la promotion conjointe du tourisme, la standardisation de nos services touristiques et la gestion des ressources touristiques nous aideront tous à exploiter au mieux les potentialités du secteur touristique de nos pays. À cet égard, j'aimerais exprimer mes gratitudes et mes compliments à Son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République du Rwanda, et à son gouvernement, aux ministres et représentants des gouvernements, aux parlementaires, aux ambassadeurs, aux membres des organisations internationales, aux opérateurs économiques, aux sociétés du secteur privé, opérant dans le secteur du tourisme, aux conférenciers et à tout participant présent ici. Cette rencontre nous permettra tous de voir où nous en sommes, où les autres en sont et vers où nous voulons progresser pour le développement d'un tourisme durable. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, permettez-moi en passant de vous parler du tourisme au Burundi. En bref, le Burundi renferme d'énormes potentialités pour son développement au niveau touristique. En effet, plus de 127 sites touristiques sur toute l'étendue du pays, nous les voyons et nous les trouvons éparpillés dans tout le pays. Comme connu comme pays cœur de l'Afrique, pays au tambour battant, le pays de 1001 collines, pays de lait et de miel, pays au printemps éternel, etc., tout cela fait du Burundi un véritable paradis. Par sa situation dans la sous-région, car situé dans un carrefour entre trois blocs économiques régionaux, l'East African Community, EAC, le COMESA, la Communauté économique des États de l'Afrique centrale, son relief, son climat frais, sa culture riche et diversifiée, son paysage pittoresque aux 1000 collines verdoyantes toute l'année, sa gastronomie riche et variée, sa faune et sa flore, le pays lui-même est une destination touristique par excellence. Le Burundi se vante du lac Tanganyika avec la richesse qu'il regorge, sans oublier son littoral et les lacs du nord. Ici, on peut se rappeler des lacs Chohoha et Wihinda, etc. Et on ne peut pas ignorer aussi le café burundais très apprécié sur le marché international, ainsi que le tambour burundais inscrit d'ailleurs dans le patrimoine culturel de l'UNESCO. Le gouvernement du Burundi s'est absolument engagé à soutenir le secteur du tourisme afin d'exploiter son plein potentiel. Il est parmi les secteurs prioritaires dans l'économie du pays. Dans cette perspective, le pays est en train de mettre en place l'infrastructure requise dans le secteur du tourisme, y compris l'amélioration de la connectivité avec les zones de destination touristique du pays. Nous espérons que bientôt, nous serons correctement liés à tous les pays voisins pour permettre un flux efficace de voyageurs à des fins touristiques. Nous sommes également en train de moderniser notre aéroport pour améliorer sa capacité à accueillir plus de vols et de trafic de passagers. Excellences, Madame et Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs, je profite de cette occasion pour inviter les opérateurs privés à investir dans le secteur du tourisme burundais, car nos sites touristiques sont presque dans leur état naturel. Leur aménagement est plus que nécessaire. Nos musées et nos parcs ont besoin d'être repeuplés. À travers cette excellente plateforme riche et fructueuse, nous sommes sans aucun doute que des partenaires durables seront créés. Pour le Burundi, notre beau pays aussi, les portes sont grandement ouvertes pour les investisseurs, non seulement dans le tourisme, mais également dans les secteurs économiques connexes. Et c'est sur ces propos que je voudrais clôturer mon allocution et en remerciant très sincèrement Son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République du Rwanda et son gouvernement pour l'hospitalité légendaire dont moi-même et ma délégation avons été l'objet Et nous remercions aussi tous les autres participants à cette grande rencontre d'avoir répondu à l'invitation de Kigali, qui est aussi une invitation sur le continent africain. Je vous remercie. Vive la République du Burundi, vive la République du Rwanda, vive la République unie de Tanzanie, vive la coopération internationale, vive le développement de l'industrie touristique. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I think some really incredible points from Your Excellency. One in particular is, where are we actually headed to? And I think we're going to endeavor to answer those questions throughout the 5 sessions in the next 2 days. It now gives me absolutely great honor to invite to stage the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, none other than Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan.
Your Excellency, Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, Your Excellency, Prosper Bazombanza, Vice President of the Republic of Burundi, Ms. Julia Simpson, President of the World Tourism and Travel, WTTC, Mr. Arnold Donald, Chairperson, WTTC, Ministers of Tourism here present, CEOs of travel and tourism companies, WTTC members, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Let me begin my remarks by thanking my brother, President Paul Kagame, for the warm welcome and hospitality accorded to me and my delegation since our arrival in this beautiful city of Kigali. We felt home, and of course, Rwanda is our second home. I'm also delighted to meet my friends, Arnold, Julia, Manfredi, Peter Greenberg, and the wife, Hande. Welcome to Kigali, welcome to Africa. The choice of Africa, and in particular Kigali, as a venue for this important event was deliberate, because Africa and tourism are inseparable. And so it is in order for those in tourism ecosystem to meet in Africa and discuss the future of tourism. I also wish to thank and commend Ms. Julia Simpson and her team for the job well done and for putting all the necessary arrangements for this summit together. Thank you for your time and dedication. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is a fact that Africa is endowed with rich and abundant natural and cultural touristic attractions. To give my own country as an example, Tanzania has 21 national parks, including the Serengeti and Ngorongoro Crater, more than 40 game-controlled and game-reserved areas, more than 400 forestry reserves, and over 120 tribes with diverse cultures. Above all, We have beautiful Zanzibar Islands. This is just one country out of 54 countries of Africa. We have heard about Burundi, we heard about Rwanda, and we'll soon hear from President Kagame what Rwanda has to offer. Tourism contributes considerably in most of African economies. In Tanzania, for example, tourism sector contributes up to 17.2% of our GDP and 25% of our total export earnings. While this is a massive contribution from one single source, it entails that Africa can leverage tourism to drive economic growth and create employment opportunities. Thus, the sector, if well utilized, can be of great use to most of African countries in terms of repositioning the continent in other connected sectors and henceforth attracting more foreign currencies. So in order for a tourism industry to make expected and required strides, there are, however, some serious questions for African governments to ask ourselves and some considerations to undertake. Number one is the strategic branding and marketing. Africa should develop compelling narratives and a brand identity that highlight Africa's unique natural heritage, natural beauty, and diverse experiences. We must invest in targeted marketing campaigns across various platforms to reach the global audience. In my country, for example, we are experiencing a lot of new arrivals following the global watched film, The Royal Tour, produced by CBS editor Peter Greenberg, whom I'm happy to learn is amongst the WTTC brand ambassadors. Linked to this, Africa should ensure wide access to information resources about local customs, traditions, and cultural practices. Africa should tell its own story in its own terms and set a positive narrative about our continent. We cannot afford to continue remaining silent in this era of fake news. We should stand up and put the record straight. Africa is not only the future, it is now. Number two is an issue of conservation and preservation, that Africa is regarded as a guardian of nature because our forefathers played their part in protecting the same. If Africa is to rely on natural attractions, it is imperative that we should prioritize conservation and support efforts to preserve cultural sites, artifacts, and traditions, and to ensure they remain accessible for generations to come. In Tanzania, we have the motto by our dedicated tourism television, which says, "Tumerithishwa tuwarithishe." Loosely translated, what we inherited, we should also pass it on to the next generation. In view of this, distinguished delegates, Africa should continue to prioritize sustainable tourism practices by minimizing the environmental footprint of tourism activities, promoting the conservation of natural resources, and supporting community-based tourism initiatives. We in Africa should emphasize on ecotourism, which promotes responsible travel to natural areas, contributing to conservation efforts, and providing sustainable economic benefits to local communities. My last point for consideration but not least, is research and data analysis. For tourism sector to continue being relevant, we should endeavor to undertake research and on tourism trends, visitors' preferences, and environmental impacts. This will allow us to make informed decisions and refine strategies for sustainable growth across the continent. In my view, this is an area where the WTTC and other partners can also come in. Linked to this is enhancing the capacity of professionals to understand and respond effectively to the challenges facing the sector. I'm insisting on research and data analysis because some of us identify the sector as tourism sector, and we lose some constitutes of travel. We put them aside. And this may have effect on the calculations of the percentage of contributions to our GDPs and economies. So that's why I'm insisting on research and data analysis. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it will be a miss on my part if I conclude without acknowledging the role of private sector in the tourism ecosystem. We in Tanzania believe that a coordinated and well-regulated private sector is an engine to our economic growth. It is important, therefore, to note that the private sector has a big role to play in our endeavors. I have indicated one example, the film by Peter Greenberg, The Royal Tour, which was fully funded by the private sector of Tanzania. So this is just one example, but the list can be long. So collaboration with government, private sector, and non-profit organization cannot be overemphasized. I will, at this juncture, end my remarks by inviting the private sector to come and join our efforts in making travel and tourism more vibrant in our economies in a win-win relationship. In Tanzania, our doors are wide open, opportunities are endless. If you keep on waiting, you will be missing out. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Some incredible pointers that you had there. I was struggling to pick just one, but I think what I love that you said is tourism and travel is not just about the future, it's also about now. So thank you so much, Your Excellency. I am super excited to bring on stage the next speaker. He is the leader of the very land that we are in. So we are honored to have him in the room. Please help me welcome on stage the President of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame.
Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Excellency Prosper Bazombanza, Vice President of the Republic of Burundi, Arnold Donald, my friend, Chair of the World Travel Tourism Council, Julia Simpson, my sister, CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to join you to open the World Travel and Tourism Council Global Summit, the first ever, as said earlier, in Africa. We're very honored by the presence here today of my sister, Her Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan. Madam President, I thank you most sincerely for your presence. I also thank the other countries represented here today, especially from our East African region. This is very important. After all, when tourists visit Rwanda, they usually also have a stop in Tanzania, Kenya, Burundi, or Uganda as well. We are actually a single destination with attractions and experiences that reinforce one another. To WTTC, I thank you very much for choosing Rwanda as the venue for this year's summit and for the excellent work that you and your members are doing. You honor not only our country, Rwanda, but also Africa as a whole. From here, Africa can connect with the rest of the world and vice versa. Let me explain why this moment is so meaningful for us. Almost 30 years ago, Rwanda experienced its darkest moment. This was a place that people fled from, a situation that the world looked away from in horror. But we vowed not to let the past define us. This meant building a nation where all Rwandans live in peace and dignity. And indeed, beyond that, we imagined in a Rwanda that anyone in the world would want to travel to. That is how, early on, we identified tourism as a key driver of economic growth and employment. We have not been disappointed. Every year, we welcome so many visitors who come to Rwanda and to enjoy the unique natural beauty, to attend sporting events, or to participate in gatherings like this one. This is a privilege and a trust that we do not take for granted. Conservation is a big part of our strategy to build a more sustainable future. We are delighted that the Nyungwe National Park is now a World Heritage Site. We're also investing in the infrastructure and skills to host major sporting events such as Basketball Africa League. Globally, the travel and tourism industry has recovered strongly, but the high cost of air travel to Africa and within Africa remains a barrier. Implementation of the single African air transport market is therefore an important priority. We also removed visa restrictions for citizens of every African country, as well as many other countries. Let there be no mistake about it. An African can get on a plane to Rwanda whenever they wish, and will not pay a thing to enter our country. We should not lose sight of our own continental market. Africans are the future of global tourism as our middle class continues to grow at a fast pace in the decades to come. We must work closely together with partners like you to continue developing Africa into a premier destination for global travel. I hope you will take some time to visit Rwanda before you depart, and that you will return here often. I wish you a productive deliberations, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. We really appreciate that. I think some very valuable points and insights there. This brings us to the end of this part of the program. I really want to take this opportunity to say thank you once again, Your Excellencies, for taking the time and really giving us the privilege of your presence in this room. To the rest of our distinguished guests, we hope you enjoy the rest of your stay here in Rwanda, because Rwanda is indeed your home away from home. I took the time to learn and say thank you appropriately. So with that, murakoze. At this time, from wherever you're seated, please do not leave the room. I just ask all of us to please rise as their excellencies make their way out of the room.